This is the Ethereum 1 month overview reading for the month of May 2023. It's currently April 16th, 2023, 7:18 p.m. Eastern Time. Ethereum at the time of this reading is currently $2,120.63. That's USD. The Ethereum May reading was created on March 23rd, 2023. That's this file right here. The overall theme and behavior for Ethereum in the month of May, we have a prominent move higher, breaking through a resistance level that's important on a 1 month scale at least. We stay above it briefly, and then we break back down through the same price level shortly thereafter with a full retracement. It's crossed with the type of behavior where we're bumping along resistance, possibly breaking through, but bumping along resistance. When we look at the 1 year cluster, we've got a highest high, it looks like, in the month of May. It's within close proximity to May's low, and it looks like May's low may be towards the end of the month there, with a notable move out of it, a prominent decline into it, and a notable move out of it. We have some cross-reading congruencies here as well. The behavior around the highest high, we have a sideways rotation along key support. We rise to meet the nearest critical resistance, and then we fall back down and continue rotating sideways along key support. That's the behavior around the high. Either that or we manifest like with 3 peaks. There's a couple ways that it could go. And then behavior around the lowest low, there's a notable decline that offers an opportunity to open up a long position in the midst of the decline. Before we go any further, let's take a look at the 1 year and see how we did so far. So we have a lowest low here in January. Looks like in January we have a lowest low. Halting of a bullish trend at the high in February, marked by a sharp decline through key support. Okay, so there we go. Taking us into, matter of fact, out of the low, there's a rally along diagonal trend line, breaking through horizontal resistance to meet a secondary resistance before pulling back to somewhere between those 2 price levels. It's pretty much what we see happening. And then we have a prominent or an important low on a 1 month scale standing out here in early March, as indicated here in early March. So that's looking pretty solid. I think right now, even though we're in April already, we're still seeing this big move to the upside that came at the end of March. I would be very careful, guys, because there's a unicursal involved in this big move to the upside that we're experiencing right now, and it's followed by the revisiting of a support level that was recently a past opportunity, and a prominent trough for the year as well. Not a low, but a prominent trough standing out on a 1 year chart. That's followed by a May's chart with the highest high. So this is looking pretty solid, the 1 year thus far. We very likely have a highest high thus far in May, and then I think we have probably a higher one here in July, August. But that remains to be seen. With that said, that's the full shuffle file completed. And let's get into it. So on the first, we have a rally that ends with a rally along a diagonal trend line that ends with a fast sudden move higher, and then a breakdown through that diagonal trend line, taking us into like a more volatile kind of chart behavior the further we get away from that diagonal trend line. There's a prominent trough and a prominent crest, kind of like somewhere around the first second. It's hard to determine if one's on top of the other or whatnot, but it's like a prominent trough to a prominent crest, and that on the second, there's an intentional fake-out, shakeout of some sort, and it's something as far as technical analysis is concerned to the upside there. There's also a trade opportunity there on a 1 month scale. We'll get into that in more detail in the paid version. So decline pretty notably, and then a move higher standing out there on the second. That's kind of like a fake out, followed by a decline. Ends on the third with a fast sudden move higher, and then a lot of price change on the fourth. Looks like we established support at what may be a lowest low. I see this is like the second most likely place, or the third most likely place to see a lowest low. I think the most likely place to see a lowest low is here on the 26th, 24th, 26th kind of area, but we may see it here as well. Overall chart behavior is two lows with a peak in between, right? So a lot of price change there and a support level that's highlighted towards the early afternoon. Then there's a big move out of that low, prominent move to the upside, standing out on a 1 month chart there on the 5th, pushing the upper end of a range higher. And then we have resistance. A lot of choppy behavior between the 5th and the 7th, it looks like. We go from pushing the upper end of a range higher to a key resistance level that's highlighted. Another prominent trough and probably a highest high thus far towards the end of the day, or on the cusp there of the 6th, 7th. But there's also a decline off of that highest high that'll stand out pretty notably on 1 month. There on the 7th. Decline continues into the 8th. At the end of the day on the 8th, looks like there's a pretty fast, sudden move higher. And then somewhere around the cusp of the 8th or the 9th, we may see either the same price level or a higher price level. It's hard to determine. There's two things that could be going on here. We could have three highs, right? One here around the 6th, 7th, one here around the 8th, 9th, one here around the 12th, 11th, or 12th, 13th. Or what we could have is, like this middle one could be the highest high with like lower price levels on each side, but still peaks. Or what we see is this one being the highest price level. If I'm wrong about the middle one being higher than the first one, so the 8th, 9th being higher than the 6th, 7th, if I'm wrong about that peak being higher, then the highest high is most likely going to be here on the 12th, 13th. We'll get into that. But then there's trade opportunity on the 4th we'll get into in more detail as well. Guys, if you're interested in the paid version, you can get the paid version on our website, Tarot for Traders, by going to our services Eso-Meta forecasts, and then clicking on monthly predictions. Click on May prediction, and then specify which ticker you're interested in. Obviously, in this case, we're talking about Ethereum, but there's other ones for offer as well. Much appreciated for everybody that does that. That's really helps to support the channel. And back to what we're doing here. There's a sharp, I might have forgot to mention, there's a sharp decline somewhere between this crest on the 2nd and this trough on the 4th. There's a sharp decline that'll stand out on a 1 month. We also see another sharp decline somewhere around the 6th or the 7th. Sharp decline standing out on a 1 month. We have universal hexagram energy here. But at the end of the day on the 8th, fast sudden move higher to a peak or crest, possibly the second highest high or higher high than the first. And then this rally on the 9th offers a trade opportunity as well, which we'll get into in the paid version. On the 10th, a period of volatility that ends with a fast sudden move higher. The 11th, we have a rally along a diagonal trend line, breaking through horizontal resistance to meet secondary resistance before pulling back to somewhere, before pulling back to somewhere between those two price levels. And I think probably we established like support here on the 12th, and then we move somewhere between the 12th and the 13th. There's a little bit of a move to the upside, or might even be at the end of the day on the 13th. Hard to determine, but somewhere around there, there's this move to the upside and then back to the support level again, which is the behavior we're looking for this like sideways rotation. Multiple failed attempts to break through key resistance on the 14th. A prominent trough on the 15th. On the 16th, we have a rally that increases with momentum moving forward in time. Another thing that leads me to believe we have a highest high, most likely here on the 13th. If I'm wrong about this being a higher price level than the 6th, 7th, the 8th, 9th being higher than 6th, 7th, if that's wrong, then the 12th, 13th is most likely the highest high. In any case, multiple failed attempts to break through key resistance on the 14th. On the 15th, a fast sudden move higher out of a trough. and then rallying, increasing with momentum on the 16th. This is a cross correlator, which leads me to believe this is the highest high. And then on the 17th, at some point there's a bit of a decline between the 16th rally and the 17th because we come to kind of like oversold, either an oversold trough, prominent trough on a 1 month. Yeah, most likely an oversold trough on a 1 month, and there's a sudden, like a significant move to the upside standing out on a 1 month chart there, out of the trough there on the 17th, rallying into a crest, a peak or crest on the 18th that'll stand out on a 1 month. And that resistance level, we break down with consecutively lower spikes up on the way down when we meet that resistance. Resistance is highlighted on the 19th that we've met several times before and failed to break through. And then on the 20th, a lot of price movement on the 20th. We have both a high and a low. There's likely a lot of price change there on the 20th, and sideways rotation with a sharp drop that'll stand out in that period of sideways rotation. On the 21st, bullish price swings and a crest or peak there midday. We decline there from that crest or peak through multiple support levels. And then around midday we reverse and we're moving higher to a crest or peak kind of like midday on the 23rd, where we break through resistance momentarily, we stay above it briefly, and then we break back down with the same through the same price level shortly thereafter, creating a new local high. So not necessarily a highest high, but a new local high after creating these lows here. And then we decline off of that high. It looks like that decline takes us into maybe a lowest low here on the 24th, and a big move out of that lowest low. After we establish support, there's a move to the upside, a prominent move to the upside out of that trough there on the 14th. Move continues on the out of that trough there on the 24th. Move continues higher on the 25th to a crest or peak, and then we decline with increasing momentum as we move forward back into what's most likely a lowest low here on the 26th as well. It might be on the 27th, hard to say. It's 26, 27, but there's this decline here. We revisit a support level on the 27th that we recently met once before, and then on the 28th, a prominent move higher to an important crest or peak midday, followed by an equal move back down to a prominent trough. Unicursal energy on the 29th, so off of that crest or peak there that we have around the 28th, there's an oversold crest or peak there, and we sell off through multiple support levels. On the 30th, we have a move higher through resistance, we stay above it briefly, and then we break back down through that price level, continuing to break down through another support, and then we do a U-shaped reversal below that support, come back and reuse it as support. And then on the 31st, we have erratic behavior back and forth through the same price level. We revisit a crest in the midst of that erratic behavior that was recently a past opportunity. We may have like a higher price level here on the 30th as well, after meeting these lows. Remember, the highest high on the 1 year cluster is within close time proximity to the May low. So we have like a low and a high, we have a low, and these may be highs again here, but it's a really unclear reading. There's a lot going on here, guys, so be very careful about these highs. It's really unclear, hard to determine which one is the highest high. Also, the same thing goes for the lowest lows. So I would be very careful when trading on this information, my friends. With that said, we're going to get into the paid version where I talk about the best trades that I see for the month of May. If you're interested, go check out the paid version on our website, tarotfortraders.com. Most importantly, make sure to follow that rule of karma. You do so here on the resources tab. 5% of the profits back to the channel here on Cash App, PayPal. 5% of the profits forward to one of these charities. And make sure you spend that money out of love. The universe will send it back to you tenfold from all directions, my friends. I'll see you on the next one. Stay tuned for the paid version.